After a spectacular 2 opening rounds, the IndyCar iRacing series heads to the Belgian countryside as, for the first time in just under 12 months, we go official racing with the IndyCars live from Spa-Francorchamps. Hello and welcome along to RaceSpotTV for continued coverage of the IndyCar iRacing Open Championship as we look to see if anyone here can challenge Adam Blocker for this season. Let's take a look at our series schedule because, like mentioned, it's been a very entertaining opening couple of rounds. Adam Blocker took the win at Road America, but Brandon Traino comes back at the Michigan International Speedway to claim the win and set up what will look to be an interesting remaining 10 rounds to our championship. As mentioned, Brandon Traino took the win last time out at the Michigan International Speedway, and well, what does that mean? He now leads the championship by 9 points, and for the first time in just over a couple of years, a non-powerslide motorsports driver is at the top of the championship standings. You've got a lot of other names up there, the likes of Christopher Demerit, Brendan Lichtenberg, as well as others as Riley Thompson down there in 7th with Hugo Olsen in 9th position, but lots of interesting names, and we've got a few more interesting faces in today's field here in the Belgian countryside. So welcome along then to RaceSpotTV, and we're very glad that you're choosing to spend part of your Monday evening with us live on RaceSpotTV. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. I'm doing double duty on the camera work and the commentary, and I have TV cameras provided to me by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com, and additional car cameras provided by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. Live timing for today's event is available at timing71.org. You can head over there to follow along with the very best in both the real and virtual world using their amazing suite of data analysis. So let's talk about this track then, because, well, it's such a historic track and you all know it. Just over 4 miles in length and lots of passing opportunities out there on the track. And one of the more interesting spots that we're going to watch out for here today is at the top of the Kemmel Straight, where interesting downforce configurations will mean that passing will be very, very possible. That's going to be one of our primary opportunities for cars to make the pass happen. And, well, let's talk about the track a little bit more as we look at live pictures from qualifying, because there you can see on the top left-hand portion of your screen, cars have started to roll out there on the track and they're getting underway for what will be the first of 2 laps in qualifying here. So there you can see returning to the series for the first time in a while, it's Jamie Wilson driving for Team Chimera. You can see the number 2 machine going through the Piff-Paff section of the track, heading down into the pivotal run, which is setting up all the way up towards the Blanchemont and bus stop. There you can see coming through Stavelot and Curve Paul Frere, and Wilson will set up for the opening of his qualifying runs. While he does that, times are starting to come in. You see Christian Steele currently provisional pole position with Brandon Traino, Brian Carey second and third. Good to see a number of the Powerslide Motorsports driver coming into today's race. You've got Andy Fuller and Brian Carey, who have been unable to make these Monday night races, but here they are for the first time in a while and looking to make a good performance here in qualifying. Wilson across the line, then that first lap not good. He'll be looking to spool that one up for lap number 2. There's Brandon Traino diving his way into the Lacombe chicane, one of our key passing opportunities. You'll notice Traino is on the red marked tires, and that's going to be a point of contention throughout today's race. Some teams very confident in the red mark tire lasting throughout the entirety of a stint, while a number of other teams a bit more concerned about the tire life, and Traino's going to take an off track there, and that will compromise his lap, bring an end to his qualifying runs. Let's check in with his teammate then. Christian Steele still sits in pole position as he comes through the double gauche, as it's now called, or Pouhon. We jump on board with the 5 car, who's had an up and down running so far. He qualified very well in our opening round at Road America, but then struggled a bit more throughout the race in Michigan last time out. And what can he do then here? As he then runs up towards Blanchemont and the bus stop. We must also point out, by the way, that the defending champion, Adam Blocker, currently spending some well-earned time at home with his family. So Blocker is not going to be taking part in today's race, and he'll leave the rest of the field to see what they can do. So Steele goes a bit deep into the bus stop chicane, and that's going to compromise his second lap, but as he comes across the line, still looking like he's going to hold on to that position. Let's check in with your IndyCar iRacing Series champion, Adam Crane, as he comes through the very tricky Piff-Paff section in his satellite racing machine. Through the Stavelot section of the track right now as he builds up momentum. Currently sits back in 10th position, 1.5 seconds off the pace, and looks like Adam Crane has selected those primary tires. So there we can see at least one of our bigger names in the series has decided that the black mark tire is what they are going to want to use. But of course, let's see what that's going to mean when it comes to the race itself. We're looking at a 22-lap race here today. And depending on how you want to do that, you could obviously split it up into 11-lap stints either side of your pit stop. But we'll see if anyone else can do this potentially. Maybe try something different. I was talking to Brian Carey, who mentioned the potential for some slightly different strategy, but nothing yet firmly decided. He's going to be playing that by ear very much. So qualifying then coming to an end. We still got 50 seconds left on the clock, but no one really out there on the track on any hot lap. So let's just remind you, if you're not already following us for all of your sim racing action, you should make sure you click that red subscribe button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live here on RaceSpotTV. You can also follow us at RaceSpotTV on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram, and we stream a lot of our races across those platforms as well, so you can always tune in wherever most convenient for you. So 20 seconds left in qualifying then, and as Leo Guggenheim points out. Blocker not going to go boom today because, like mentioned, Blocker is enjoying some well-earned time with his family, but the rest of your field has a lot of stress now to deal with. 22 laps here at what is a fantastic circuit nestled in the heart of the Belgian countryside, and let's see what's going to happen then as we tick on over into our race session. So on the pole position then, it is Christian Steele for the i5G team, and he's got his teammate next to him. Brandon Traynor, the two-time Indy 500 champion, making it a all i5G row number 1. And all power slide row 2 is the Swede Hugo Olsen, who won this year's Open Wheels 500-mile race, lines up in 3rd. He's got Brian Carey to his outside. John Martin lines up on the inside of row number 3 with power slides. Andy Fuller back in 6th. Cesar Manzado in the 1 car lines up in the 7th position. He's got the independent driver Dylan Freckleton on his outside. Vulder Wallen lines up then back in 9th position with the IndyCar iRacing Series champion Adam Crane on the edge of the top 10. Andrew Marquez for Loose Nut Racing back in 11th position with Will Lyon in 12th. Brendan Lichtenberg is going to have to start all the way back in 13th. What can the Hyperstar do in trying to make sure that's not unlucky? Number 13, he'll have Connie Naslin to his outside. Jessica Myers in the fiercely forward number 20 car will be in 15th place with John Downing back in 16th. 24 cars in today's field, a final couple of rows to go through. It's Julian Pastor in 17th with Riley Thompson back in 18th. Joe Branch in his Coca-Cola powered car will be in 19th position with Christian Macarelli on the edge of the top 20. Andrew Wood for Team Talent back in 21st place. You'll have Jamie Wilson, who's making his return to the series, back in 22nd. Robin Glennox back in 23rd place, and Chris Cahill, the last car on today's grid. So there you get a great aerial shot of the cars all lined up, ready to go. Once again, Brandon Traynor finds himself on the front row, and in his quest to dethrone Adam Blocker, this is the type of performance he will need. So cars start to pull off then, 2 by 2 in their start formation. We'll have a relatively short run down to the start-finish line, and the field will be left in control of Christian Steele. So many tricky spots on this track. The tire model has been posing some difficulties for the various drivers, and they've been making their feelings known on the iRacing forums, and you can head over there to follow along with the greatest IndyCar community of all time, the IndyCar community. Not biased at all, but here we go then. Pace car is going to dive down onto the safety of pit lane, leave the field in control of the number 5 car as we get ready to go racing here for 22 laps. In the Belgian countryside, Steele punches the throttle, and straight away Hugo Olsen down to the inside. Challenges Brandon Traynor. That's not what they would have wanted. Olsen slots into second, but Traynor back down to the inside. Olsen swings very, very wide as we see multiple cars going too wide through La Source. But it's all about the question out front. Down in towards Eau Rouge and Radion. There you can see all of those cars on the red marked tire. We have to go all the way back to about 10th position before we find Adam Crane on the black marked tires. Traynor looks to the inside of his teammate. It's i5G 1 and 2, power slide 3 and 4. No real moves up front. You have to go back to 13th position where Andrew Marquez has just made a move, and Connie Naslin also gets by John Downing. Riley Thompson makes up a position on Jessica Myers as Hugo Olsen and Christian Steele have had a few moments off track there, as we saw in the first few moments. Olsen holds on to the 3rd position, but we file through the what is now Jackie Ick's corner. It's a corner that's name is always shrouded in mystery, but through the double ghost, Pujon, Steele leads the field, really stressing those red mark tires. You can see going very wide through that very long left-hand sweeper, but he's got a 0.4 of a second buffer to his teammate and a further 0.7 back to Hugo Olsen, who's feeling some pressure right now from his teammate. The Canadian Brian Carey, who's finally able to make a return to this series as he's got a week off from his improv responsibilities, puts the pressure onto his teammate, forces Olsen off the track once again. So Olsen has already used up at least 2 of his off tracks, and that's not what he would have wanted in what is a very long 22-lap race. Also look behind, John Martin in the number 19 machine puts the pressure onto the Canadian, forces Carey to go defensive, and now looks to the outside. He'll try the switch back here and try and get the power down off the corner, but as we complete lap number 1, then Christian Steele leads this race. He's got Brandon Traynor right behind him, Hugo Olsen, Brian Carey 3rd and 4th, and John Martin in 5th position. Is there you can see just toward the tail end of the top 10. You have to go all the way there before you find our first challenge. All of these cars getting themselves single filed out then as we look towards our first green flag run and towards our first green flag stops about 10 laps into this race. The 2 i5G teammates out front already pulling away. 1 second the gap between Powerslide and i5G. Traynor to the inside and Traynor to the race lead. So Steele has now had to check up very slightly, and that's brought back Olsen into the equation just for now, but downforce levels, it appears as though the i5G teammates have slightly more top speed on those straightaways. We'll see if that's going to play out as the Powerslide duo behind, having a bit more downforce through the corners, but we work our way then through the infield of Sector 1, and you can see a nice train of 7 or 8 cars all single filed out right now. So only a couple of cars electing to go on to the black mark tires. Let's update you on that strategy right now. Jamie Wilson, Adam Crane, Riley Thompson, and Christian Macarelli, the 4 cars that have decided to start the race on the black mark tire. Everyone else has elected for the reds. Traynor now has an 0.8 of a second advantage over his teammate, and already the Swedes tries to take advantage and tries to get past Christian Steele and get to work on the race leader. In towards the bus stop chicane, then will the Swede take a look? He thinks about it for a second and then commits under braking to just slotting back into line and trying to get the run off the corner. It's been a whirlwind year for Hugo Olsen. Joined up with Powerslide Motorsports in about the middle of the year, and then had a very strong running in the IndyCar iRacing series as he made his quest for a first major title on the iRacing service. Came up a little bit short in that official series, but I'm sure he won't be too disappointed, having then won the Open Wheels 500-mile race just a couple of weeks ago here live on RaceSpotTV, and we jump on board with the Swede now. There you can see he's already used one of his push-to-passes, but electing not to push the button this time down the straightaway. So Olsen did close, though. You can see those gaps starting to develop now. So Brian Carey in 4th position has just over 1.4 seconds back to 5th place John Martin. That will be a very nice, comfortable buffer. However, the issue is, you look out front, Brandon Traynor starting to pull away. The gap now up to 1 second, and on those red tires, Traynor doing a very good job so far. There are some good battles happening up and down through the field. Let's try not to just focus on out front. Jump back to about 7th position. There's Cesar Manzada, who another driver that we saw in the IndyCar iRacing series making a challenge for the title. He's running in 7th place right now, and he's got John Martin and Andy Fuller scrapping it out in front. Manzada, who represents North Sim Racing, has the number 1 car for this race, meaning it's the strongest driver by iRating in today's field, but has a bit of a ways to go to get up into the top 5 to try and challenge for the remainder of this race. Fuller looking very feisty here. He's going to the outside of John Martin, but Martin's going to cut the nose off. What's Fuller going to do here? Gets very close. He sets up the bus stop chicane, goes underneath the number 19 machine, and side by side we go. Manzado, by the way, around in the background of your shot. We'll get back to that replay in just a moment's time, but for now, there's a battle going on for 5th and 6th on track. Fuller tries to then check up and get the run down out of La Source, and what is a very long run all the way up the Camel Straight. I tell you what, let's jump on board with the number 3 car and see if he decides to use the button this time around over the top of the hill and in that draft he is, but no button being pressed, and Fuller is going to get stuck once again in the draft. So let's take a look at our first RaceSpotTV replay of today's race, and Cesar Manzado, who sees that battle unfolding in front of him, through the first part of the corner, all right, and he gets turned from behind. That was Dylan Freckleton making slight contact. We'll take one more look at it here from a wonderful aerial angle brought to us by our graphical partners over at ATVO, and here you'll see Freckleton just carries a bit more speed through the inside of the corner, and well, Manzardo wasn't expecting that, and around he goes, and that's going to promote Freckleton up into 7th. It drops Manzardo down to 7th. Sorry, 13th. Let's jump back live, because there you can see Fuller through the infield of the track, applying a lot of pressure here to John Martin, who's doing a very sterling job to fend off the advances. Here we go on the rearward shot from the number 19 as Andy Fuller, who resides in California, tries to get the move done. This will be a nice drafting opportunity for the Californian then. On the run up towards Blanchimont, he looks to the outside. That is very, very bold. Are they going to go side by side? They are. Contact made, and almost the inevitable happens there. Andy Fuller comes back onto the track, though. And my, that's a big incident. Leo Guggenheim wants to see booms, and, well, Leo, your wish is now granted as Fuller has to reset to the pit lane. We'll take a look at that RaceSpotTV replay, and it's always inevitable here. You see the initial contact being made as we slow this one down, and you'll see here, Fuller just tries to get back onto the track, expects Martin to maybe give him a bit more space, and unfortunately there, 2 does not go into 1, and that is a very big incident indeed. Take a look at this one more time. Just the tail end of this in live action. You see Fuller, nasty impact into the wall, and that's going to be his race done for today. So let's go back up to the front then, because the top 3 have started to pull away from Brian Carey. The Canadian is starting to be dropped in his quest to fight for the podium, but Brandon Traino, Christian Steele, and Hugo Olsen separated by less than 1 second as we have completed 4 out of our 22 laps here today. Such a great racetrack this, and so long, and you spend so much time on full throttle as well, that it really does require a lot of focus from the driver to commit to every single corner. And I tell you what, let's jump on board with the Canadian Brian Carey and ride on board through the Piff-Paff section. This is where it's all about getting the run up towards Blanchimont, and out here, this is the important corner, Campus in towards Stavelot. Carey, with that dirty air, runs a little bit wide, but you'll see there, using all the track, and now gets into that draft and tows himself up the hill. See out front as well, Olsen applies more pressure to Christian Steele out front. Steele doing a good job to stay in the draft of his teammate out front, but they are starting to use the button a little bit more. Steele has already used 3 of his 10 push-to-passes. Brandon Traino, 2 uses out front, while Hugo Olsen still the solitary usage on the opening lap of the race. A little bit closer this time around for the Swede. What's he going to do on the important run out of La Source? Steele has a wing mirror filled with that yellow machine now as we dive down the hill in towards Eau Rouge and Radiant. The gap is just 0.3 of a second. There's a number of issues I'm seeing on my timing screen, the likes of Riley Thompson and Andrew Wood, who unfortunately are facing in the wrong direction, but let's keep an eye out here. Hugo Olsen, there you can see he's in the draft, but not able to close, and that's the story of the downforce levels. So already we're seeing early on in this race, if Olsen wants to have a chance here, he might have a little bit more downforce underneath him, but he's going to need to do something maybe in the pit cycle to get things done. Adam Crane losing a couple of positions as on those black marked tires he sees a number of cars going around his outside. What a move that is from Andrew Marquez, who squeezes to the inside of Malmedy, but Crane able to hold him off. Here comes Will Lyon on the outside in the Earnbrew powered machine. This is fantastic scrapping for 10th position on the track. Crane able to hold on the black mark tires, but he sees John Downing out in front of him. Lyon sees the challenge from behind, but let's jump back to those issues that were mentioned just a few moments ago. Riley Thompson heading in towards the Bruxelles corner. He's got Jessica Myers right behind. Thompson gets it slightly wrong and leaves nowhere for Myers to go. An unfortunate contact made there. Let's take a look at this once again at our beautiful aerial coverage brought to us by ATVO, and we'll see the contact being made there. Second incident that was mentioned was for Andrew Wood in the Team Talent machine. This is coming in towards Blanchimont right behind Jamie Wilson. One of the other cars on the black marked tires. Woodith looks to the inside, tries to slow the car down, but moments from disaster, almost hits a number of cars there, and Jamie Wilson lives to fight another day. While we were in replay, another replay to take a look at. John Downing, as he enters that very same portion of the track, as he was running up in 10th position. He's going to lose it in the middle of the corner. You see Crane able to get through. Marquez has to go finding his way through the barriers, and you see the rest of the cars then stacking themselves up. Oh no! Back to live pictures, and that was a huge disaster in the background. My oh my, what has happened? Jessica Myers with no front wing is going to try and nurse that car through Eau Rouge and Radeon. Of course, just about able to hold that car under control. So clearly, it's a little bit of a client-server discrepancy going on there, as Wilson has to find his way past the fiercely forward machine that is now stricken out there on the track, and indeed into the grass. Jessica Myers struggles out on the track. So let's take a look then at what unfolded down in towards turn number 1. So it's Christian Maccarelli who tried to go deep under braking. Will Lyon and John Downing go for a bit of a sympathy synchronized spin, and Jessica Myers, unfortunately, had nowhere to go. We'll get one more look at this incident, as we're right on board with Jessica Myers here, as she's going to come around the outside of turn number 1 and be presented with a scene of destruction. And unfortunately, Will Lyon stricken in the middle of the track, nowhere for the 20 car to go, and significant damage then for the fiercely forward machine. We check back out front because lap 7 out of 22, Olsen losing the rear end. Almost compromises both him and his teammate, but he'll gather that one up, keep it under control, and still only 0.6 of a second behind Christian Steele. But another interesting duel at the front of our Monday night IndyCar races, as Powerslide and i5G do battle for what is the 3rd consecutive week in a row, and I'm hoping is going to be the story of this season. It's a brand new tire model, it's a brand new damage model as well, and we're very, very grateful that we've got so many of our series regulars returning, and Brandon Traynor, the 2-time Indy 500 champion, now sees his teammate closing up once again, and Christian Steele going to tuck in all the way behind that rear wing, and we now have a 4-car train for the lead of this race. Currently leading the point standings is Brandon Traynor, and good opportunities to secure some good points here with defending series champion Adam Blocker missing today's race. Blocker, of course, taking some well-deserved family time after spending a crazy 2020 with the IndyCar paddock and his responsibilities with the Ilmore team. And I know he's very excited about heading back out to the tracks for the 2021 season, so recharging those batteries with the family this weekend. Gap now between the top two, 0.7 of a second. Christian Steele feels that pressure once again from behind. Very interesting battle out here, but you have to think it's going to be difficult for Olsen and Carey to get past, given the different levels of front wing and rear wing that seemingly have been taken. Let's check back to the 7th position and the hyperstar Brendan Lichtenberg, because he's got Cesar Manzardo all over his rear wing as we head down into the bus stop section. Manzardo looked for the move, forces Lichtenberg to really commit to the corner under braking, and that's going to compromise him then out of the corner on the run down in towards La Source. Cesar Manzardo, if you can believe it, only has 3 of his 10 push-to-passes left to use, so Manzardo has really been using all of the allowed boost that he gets, and he'll be having a little bit more of a struggle in the second half of the race. Nice little battle, by the way, all the way back. If you go to 17th and 18th, Riley Thompson and Robin Glennox scrapping it out. Both cars having issues early on in this race, having to fight on back on the red mark tires, but so far. Riley Thompson able to now start pulling away very slightly from the 21 machine as we follow Manzato through Les Combes as Brendan Lichtenberg extends that gap up to 0.7 of a second now. It was interesting following along with all of the conversation about the tires coming into this week. So many people thinking the Reds didn't have the lifespan to take you 11 laps, but we are 9 laps in so far, and you have to go all the way back to the 10th position to find Adam Crane, the highest runner on those black mark tires, who runs exactly where he qualified. So for Crane, let's see if he switches on to the Reds for the second stint of the race. Manzato through the Piff-Paff section closes in on the Hyperstar out front. You can see Connie Naslund in the number 12 machine hunting them down as well, but run up towards Blanchimont once again. We ride on board with Manzato. Speed increasing past 300 kilometers an hour as we work our way in towards what is one of the most high commitment corners on any racetrack across the globe. It is such a thrill to be able to throw the car in there and trust that it will stick, and Manzato doesn't have to stress too much about that car right now. Lichtenberg has once again gone very deep into the corner. One has to wonder if maybe that's an intentional line being taken there. Maybe some tire strategies being played out that we're not aware of here in the comms booth, but Lichtenberg a bit deep under braking once again. That's going to open the door on the run down in towards our Rouge and Radion. Let's jump on board with Manzato once again then. Through the quick left, in towards the right, over the top of the crest. On the button for Manzato. There you can see the screen illuminates green. The lights start flashing, and here comes the run. He's starting to stall out though. He's not able to pull alongside just yet, and in fact, he's going to have to tuck back into line, and that was a push-to-pass burn there for Manzato, and just 2 remaining then in the remaining 13 laps of today's race. There you can see the third number from the left is the push-to-pass usage, and just two usages left for Manzato, who closes up right to the gearbox of Lichtenberg once again. Lichtenberg really struggling compared to his teammates out front, it must be said. And in towards Pujon, Manzato continues to apply the pressure. Let's jump back out front because Christian Steele has done a good job to hold on in this race so far. Hugo Olsen continues to apply that pressure, and well, let's jump on board throughout the top 4 and run you through the push-to-pass usage. There you can see for Hugo Olsen, currently runs in the 3rd position. Still got 8 uses left. Unfortunately for him, the downforce configuration proves to be a bit of a challenge, but they are coming up on some lap traffic in front. That might be an opportunity for the Swede to try something different. Let's see what's going to happen there. Run you through the remaining 3 cars in your top 4. The 2 i5G teammates out front, they've both used 4 of their 10 push-to-passes so far, so they're splitting it fairly evenly in terms of usages, whereas Brian Carey, the Canadian, back there in 4th position, who must be doing a lot of fuel saving and tire saving, it must be said, hasn't used any of the push-to-passes yet. So he's going to have all 10 of those left in the second portion of this race. Pit window is well and truly open. Cesar Manzato, the first taker onto the lane as he blinks from the 7th spot. You get that classic shot through Malmedio of the cars, really stretching the limits of the track there. But of course, in this IndyCar on the new tire model, curbs are a bit more vicious. So some of these drivers not choosing to clobber them as much as they have in the past, but all of them still being very respectful of track limits at this point in time. Also, we saw him using track limits in the opening portion of the race, and once again, very, very wide and loses out very slightly. Brian Carey, the Canadian, might be in his ear just saying, multi-21, Hugo, multi-21. Why don't we switch things up a little bit and try something different out? But there you can see, by the way, at the top of your screen as well, so far, fastest car on the track, and indeed the only driver to dip down below the 1 minute 56 barrier so far in this race. Your 2-time Indy 500 champion Brandon Traino out front. 0.7 of a second is his advantage as he uses that draw from Jessica Myers to try and extend the gap to his teammate right behind him. So who's coming down onto pit lane? The two i5G teammates decide to come down line astern, but Powerslide decide to stay out. So it's Hugo Olsen, Brian Carey, the two drivers that decide to stick it on out there. And here we see Brandon Traino and Christian Steele, the first of your front runners, down onto the lane. A couple of other cars as well. Vilda Wallen in the Three Crowns Racing number 15 decides to come down onto the pit lane as Brandon Traino and Christian Steele finally get into their boxes, up on their jacks. They're both getting brand new tires, a full tank of fuel, and Brandon Traino will release from his pit lane in just a moment's time. There we go. He'll beat his teammate out by a couple of car lengths, it must be said. So Traino spends a total of 34.1 seconds stationary in the lane. Look back to his teammate, an additional half a second. So Steele now, it's a bit of a gap to try and pull back. He'll use that draft as he climbs the hill, builds up that racing speed once again, and the two teammates try and get back to the job they were doing before. Let's take a look at some more replays, by the way, because while the pit cycle was playing out, a couple of events unfolded that we want to take a look at. John Downing once again down into the bus stop chicane, closes the door on Manzardo, who comes across the track, and slight contact gets made there, and that's going to be potential race ending damage for Manzardo. As there you can see Joe Branch and Andrew Wood get caught up in this one as well. So let's spool this one back and check in with Andrew Wood. A reminder, we need to get back to the live pictures and see what's going to happen to the leaders in a couple of moments' time. But Woodith has Manzardo coming across the track in a very dangerous fashion. It's been the race of unsafe rejoins, to be completely honest. Connery Maddox somewhere has been awoken from his slumber in a cold sweat. So there was a couple of incidents there. We'll take a look at a separate incident for Christian Macrelli. Oh, in fact, sorry, no, that's Christian Macrelli, not Cesar Manzardo, who was involved in that incident. So the number 17 machine, who has the same livery as the number 1, involved in that initial contact, and then that unsafe rejoin causes further chaos. So let's jump back to live pictures, because pit strategy is unfolding. Brian Carey goes an additional lap here, stretches the stint even further, but Hugo Olsen down onto the pit lane and down stationary into his box. So Olsen has Freckleton, who comes in behind him, and there you can see the old race leader as he comes across the line. He's got Hugo Olsen, who's just gotten out of his pit box and gets back up to racing speed. He'll slot in right behind Christian Steele. And in fact, it's going to be a bit of a challenge down in towards Eau Rouge. You would think Steele's going to sweep across, and indeed, Steele gets back out in front. But Olsen almost made that work on the pit window. What can Carey do with his shorter stop? That will be the question to keep our eyes out on. So Olsen then uses the draft, still has to get those tires back up to temp and pressure, but follow along with the number 9 machine. Brian Carey, who is just working his way through Pujon, he's got that lap traffic in front of him as well. The Canadian has an opportunity here to potentially jump 2 positions in one. He hasn't decided to use any of his push-to-passes on this lap like you may have assumed, but we jump on board with the Canadian, and let's check out what he's going to do then out of Curve Paul Frere. The Canadian still not on the button. Maybe he doesn't have enough fuel to get him back to the line, but there you can see the speeds already in excess of 290 kilometers an hour as he throws the car in towards Blanchimont. A very, very, very tiny lift there from the Canadian, who will make that car come down onto pit lane this time around. He'll make sure he doesn't do one extra lap here. And Carey then has an opportunity to try and get a couple of positions. There you can see Brandon Traino has already got 1.6 seconds to his teammate. So the question is, where is Carey going to come out? He still trundles down the pit lane at the pedestrian 60 kilometers an hour. And we wait then for Brandon Traino, Christian Steele, and Hugo Olsen to come across the line. Carey's up on the jacks, getting his service done. He's off the jacks now, rolling, but a slightly longer stop, and he's going to actually fall several seconds behind these front 3 drivers. Brian Carey, the Canadian, there you can see, still yet to be in picture, and finally emerges from the pit lane, a full 4 seconds behind the top 3 runners. Dylan Freckleton has had to return to pit lane. That is disaster then for the number 10 car. but it has shaken things up very slightly. So with pit stops all done then for your top 8, let's run you through the top 8 standings as they stand, because Brandon Traino has that traffic in front of him once again, but leads this race by just under 2 seconds, and he's got his teammate Christian Steele right behind him. Steele in the number 5 machine took the pole position, but has the challenge from the Swede Hugo Olsen right behind him, and the number 8 machine looks feisty and wants to get that position. You have to go down 5 seconds down the road to Brian Carey, who's now in the 4th position, and he's got 10 push-to-passes left to try and make up that gap out front. What can he do from that solitary position? Vilde Wallen also running all by themselves. They've got a couple of seconds either side to Brian Carey and Brendan Lichtenberg in 6th spot, who's now got Adam Crane 2 seconds down the road. You can see, by the way, Crane has switched on over to those red marked tires. I wonder if he's going to have some difficulties later on in the stint. Final car in the top 8, then you go 4 seconds down the road to Connie Nasland in the number 12 machine, as Nasland tries to reel on in your IndyCar iRacing Series champion. So top 8 runners then. Only one major battle to really keep our eyes on, and look at that gap between Olsen and Steele. Olsen looks to the inside as we go across the start-finish line. He's going to have the inside corner in towards Lasource. Steele deep under the braking, uses all of the track width there. I don't think the Swede is going to be too impressed by those track limits, but Steele across the nose gives Olsen that draft once again, and we jump on board with the Swede. They have been burning push-to-passes left, right, and center. Steele has burned all of his remaining push-to-passes now. He's got no more assistance from the button. The Swede, he's still got 3 left, so still an opportunity here for Hugo Olsen to try and find that one opportunity to get past up into 2nd position. So this is the fight that we're going to keep our eyes on then. Just 0.2 of a second separating 2nd and 3rd. Out front, Brandon Traino extends his lead. It's now up to 2.6 seconds. Christian Steele really has a rear wing filled with yellow right now. That would not be a very happy sight, and indeed we take a look off the rear wing of the number 5 machine, who, as mentioned, has used all of his push-to-passes for this race left. Indeed, he pushes the track limits very slightly there as we run up towards Blanchimont once again. Hugo Olsen looks to try and get up into 2nd. His first race here on a Monday nights this season so far, and looks to try and represent Powerslide Motorsports with defending series champion Adam Blocker out for today's race. So Olsen, once again, stuck right up, nose tucked in behind that rear wing, and they'll try and get the momentum off the corner here. Good exit for the Swede, and he's tucked up right behind Christian Steele right now. He's going to have to lift off the throttle, and I tell you what, let's jump on board with Olsen. Push to pass already engaged. He's already got that extra power, and here it comes. Steele defends the inside, forces Olsen to look to the outside, and Olsen depends on that engine power to push him down the straight and into 2nd position. Steele defends the inside line, but deep under braking from Olsen, and he sweeps around in towards 2nd place, and he now has to work to try and hold on to that position. Downforce levels obviously very different, and Christian Steele needs to try and hold on through the next half a lap here. This next half a lap or so is going to be so crucial. If Steele can hold on, he can use the draft the next time they run up towards Blanchimont and close the gap once again, but already up to 0.8 of a second. And Olsen now extends that gap almost out to a full second. So the Swede has got the bit between his teeth. He's got one of the i5G teammates cleared and now sets to work on the 2nd teammate. Brandon Traino now has a challenge from behind, but as he works his way through Stavelot and the Curve Pearl Frere. 7 laps to go then for Traino to hold on and secure some good championship points in his quest to challenge Adam Blocker for this championship. Another one of our Adams in today's race. Let's check in with Adam Crane, our IndyCar iRacing Series champion, who now hunts the Hyperstar, who is struggling very slightly in this phase of the race. Crane still has 4 push-to-passes left to go, and after starting on those black tires, you might have to think that he's very much enjoying the feeling of a new car with those red marked tires. It is a distinct difference between the reds and the blacks here on the iRacing service. And now that he's on those reds, Crane makes his way up through the field. Let's take a look at the movers and shakers of today's race, because it's been interesting. You've had the top 4 who really haven't shifted around too much, other than, of course, Steele, who has struggled since taking the pole position. But look at it. The likes of Brendan Lichtenberg up 7, the likes of Connie Naslund up 6, Joe Branch up 8 positions. And also Jamie Wilson, who, of course, started on the black mark tires. He runs in 13th position, so it's been an interesting race for those guys. Not such a fun one for the likes of Freckleton, Lyon, Martin, and Fuller. So mixed bag across the field, and it's great to see the Belgian countryside playing host to IndyCars for at least virtual racing. It would be very, very nice at some point to get the IndyCars to maybe visit Spa-Francorchamps for a glory run, and maybe to see what these cars can do in comparison to a modern F1 machine. But the best comparison we've got is up here in the sim, and looking at about 10 seconds delta between the lap record for a 20 modern spec F1 car and the 1:55 that your competitors are doing on brand new tires. So Crane has closed that gap in, and we jump on board as they exit the pit pass section, and this crucial corner that determines your momentum in towards the bus stop chicane. Lichtenberg uses all of the track width, and Adam Crane tucks in behind and uses that draft to try and close on in. You can see Crane's already actually in the blue part of the rev limiter, which indicates that he may already be attacking out very slightly. That'll make passes very difficult, but he closes on Lichtenberg through the bus stop chicane. Lichtenberg has been very tentative throughout today's race so far, and Crane continues to apply the pressure. Let's jump on back to one of the battles I've been keeping my eye on, because Julian Pastor in the number 23 car has got a battle from Christian Maccarelli behind. We saw Maccarelli involved in an incident through the bus stop chicane a couple of laps ago, and this is his fight back as he tries to recover a few positions, and he tries to get to work on the number 23 car. Joe Branch is around in the bus stop chicane, and he's going to clatter himself over the curves as he rejoins in front of Jamie Wilson. Take a look at the RaceSpotTV replay then, and it's been one of the trouble spots for today's race. Down in towards the bus stop chicane, and in that Coca-Cola powered car. Ooh, does a nice little 360 loop. John Downing gets out of the way very kindly. And Joe Branch is down. You can hear the floor crying out in disbelief as Branch crunches it over those curbs and gets that back up to speed. He's going to have Jamie Wilson all over him now as Wilson tries to get up into the top 10 from that very disappointing qualifying performance. Wilson still has a lot of his push-to-passes left to use as well. This is going to be a battle to keep an eye out on. Reminder, by the way, there's so much happening out on track that you can follow along using timing71.org with all the battles out on track. You can follow the best of the real and virtual world using the world-class suite of data analysis tools provided by our partners at Timing 71. Back to this battle then for 6th position, and Hyperstar has that challenge coming. Here comes Adam Crane on the red mark tires in his VRS-sponsored satellite racing machine. He'll poke his nose to the inside, but doesn't commit to the corner under braking. He's seen Lichtenberg being struggling through the corner, but Crane unable to really capitalize on that incident, or rather that point of contention. And Jamie Wilson is in the wall. Returns to this series, and unfortunately for the Britishman, that car is now going to be in no state to complete the remaining 4 laps of this race. That's a big issue for the Team Chimera driver, and well, side by side with a teammate here, and words are going to be exchanged. Words are going to be exchanged. That is all we can really say here as we take a look from the aerial coverage. So here we go. Andrew Wood looks to the outside as they enter the piff-paff section of this track, Sector 2, and he's just going to squeeze Andrew Wood as Jamie Wilson. Wood forces the car down the inside, doesn't really give much of an option to his teammate. We take a look once more here as Wilson's going to end up in the tire barriers. And I must say, the new damage model really, it's a remarkable job what the iRacing team have done, because there you can see that is a very realistic impact, and you can see the rear wing shaking around there as Wilson deals with the aftermath of that crash. So back to live pictures, and well, Christian Steele is now dropping away and Brian Carey is catching him, but you also have to pay attention to Hugo Olsen, who now finds himself 1.5 seconds behind Brandon Traino. So top 4 drivers starting to close on up, and a few battles developing then in the late stages of this race. Christian Steele once again going slightly wide on the exit of La Source. We've seen him carrying a bit too much momentum on a number of occasions, and this is going to allow Brian Carey to get into that draft and use the push-to-passes. We mentioned it at the pit stop cycle. There you can see lights illuminated on the dash for Brian Carey. He's still got 5 of his push-to-passes left. Steele unable to defend to the inside. Can he hold the position? Brian Carey deeper under braking. He has a bit more downforce, and that carries him up into that 3rd and final podium position. So your pole position sitter then drops down into 4th place, and Brian Carey finds himself in that 3rd and final podium spot. Let's take a look at this replay once again, because it was a pass that was coming. Once you knew that Steele was struggling on his push-to-pass usage, you knew that even with that downforce, Brian Carey around that outside carries the momentum, sweeps up into 3rd place, and demotes Steele into 4th. So that's the battle for 3rd. That seems to be settled. We'll try and keep our eyes out on the battle for 1st and 2nd, and you can follow along with that battle on the top left portion of your screen. You can see the number 8 of Olsen closing in on Brandon Traino, gap down to 1.3. We'll keep our attention, though, on the battle for 6th and 7th. Lichtenberg still has to defend from Adam Crane, who thinks about a move to the inside, gets a little bit squirrely on the apex of the corner, and then has to back out. This is some feisty stuff happening further back in the pack, and well, Adam Crane may be a little bit frustrated after starting on those black mark tires, one of the few cars in the top 10 to do so, and be a very impressive drive back to get up into 6th position and maybe try and challenge Vilde Wallen for 5th. So 2 laps to go. This race has flown on by. It's been an interesting race. Strategy has played its part, attrition has played its part, and there's been some great passing moves on the track as well, and might still yet have a few more to come. Adam Crane still has 2 push-to-passes left as opposed to the 1 for the Hyperstar in front of him. When's he going to use it, though? We ride on board with Crane. Still in 5th gear, you'll notice, as he crests the hill. And now finally shifts up into 6th. Both of these cars seemingly running similar downforce configurations, but Crane unable to make anything happen as Joe Branch once again, unfortunately, has had a small issue in the bus stop chicane. We'll grab a look at our RaceSpotTV replay as the Coca-Cola power machine goes for a little bit of a spin. Of course, great to see Branch out there on the track. Runs the Indy Elite Series, which returns next week, and we will go to Homestead, Miami in official open competition as well to commemorate round 1 of this year's championship, and good to see the series organizer out on track as well. We check back in with this battle for 6th, and if you are keeping a keen eye out on the left-hand portion of your screen, you'll notice the gap between 1st and 2nd, 1.8 second. Adam Crane once again tries to cut underneath in the piff-paff section. Crane looking very, very feisty as he tries to get up into the 5th position. Let's ride on board as he's already burned one of those push-to-passes left, as that's going to equal the slate here. One push-to-pass left for each of these drivers, as we'll see what's happened. Oh, what's happened to Christian Steele? Christian Steele is dropping down the timing sheets. White flag is in the air, so white flag is in the air. Brandon Traino coming around to complete what will be a fairly routine race victory, and here we take a look at Christian Steele, who, in what has been a trouble spot for the entire field, finds himself driving in the wrong direction, if only for a few moments' time. So, final lap of the race. You can follow along with Brandon Traino on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen as you see the entire field now stretched around this 4-mile track. Number 11 car comes through Jackie Ick's corner on the run down towards Pujon, so he's still got about half a lap to go, but Adam Crane is going to try and challenge Brendan Lichtenberg then, with the move coming down into the Com chicane not really an option. He'll have a couple more chances to go, maybe into the Piff Path section. That's where Crane has looked so strong, and that's where we'll be keeping our eye out for to see if that move comes once again. It's been an interesting race, like mentioned. Strategy played just as big a part as I expected, with tire fall-off being very, very crucial. And it was interesting to see the Powerslide teams taking a little bit more downforce, whereas the i5G teammates taking a little bit less. So, for those top 3 runners then, there you can see they're on their run up the hill toward the final set of corners. But let's keep our attention on this battle for just a few moments longer before we watch as Traino comes across the line. Crane looks to the inside, tries to make the move happen, but nothing happening just yet. Out of the final corner, though, it is the 2-time Indy 500 champion, and once again, for the 2nd time in 2 weeks, it's a race win here on a Monday night for Brandon Traino as he looks to try and challenge Adam Blocker for the first time in several years. Great win for Traino, but it's a Powerslide 2 and 3 that will make Blocker think about the points that might have been. So here is that battle for 6th place. Lichtenberg cuts off Adam Crane. He's going to have to serve a slowdown penalty, though. It says late race drama for 6th place on the track. Who's it going to be across the line? Adam Crane seemingly is going to take the position as Brendan Lichtenberg has to slow to a complete stop and almost loses the spot to Connie Nasland as well. So for Brandon Traino, though, very, very well-earned race win here. Adam Blocker, celebrating the holidays with his family, gave the opportunity to the number 11 car, and Brandon Traino didn't need to be told twice. He took the opportunity with both hands. And now 2 wins into this season, Traino is looking very, very confident. And I'm going to be hoping that in just a few moments' time, Traino, Olsen, and Carey all come up here into the Race Spot booth so we can talk about the race that was. So great shot then of Traino doing his donuts. The donuts he's perfected on the biggest stage of them all. He's become accustomed to doing that across the yard of bricks, and here he does them then in through Eau Rouge and Radion. So we wait for the final couple of cars to come across the line to show you the race results, and with that being done, let's take a look then at those final results. And well, 22 laps later, Brandon Traino with his 2nd consecutive race win in Monday night IndyCars, and he's got the Powerslide duo right behind him, though, all the way to the line. Hugo Olsen and Brian Carey 2nd and 3rd. Christian Steele finishes up in 9th position. A late race incident then for Steele. We'll try and get his thoughts if possible. Phil de Wallen therefore gets promoted up into 4th position with Adam Crane in 5th, Brendan Lichtenberg in 6th, Connie Nasland in 7th, Cesar Manzado in 8th, and Andrew Marquez in 10th position. 11th through 20th then, John Downing finishes in the 11th spot with Andrew Wood in 12th, Christian Macrelli comes home in number 13 with Joe Branch in 14th. Julian Pastor comes home 15th with Robin Glennox 16th, Riley Thompson 17th, and Dylan Freckleton, the last car on the lead lap, in 18th place. Jessica Myers recovers to bring that car home 1 lap down in 19th, with Jamie Wilson with that late race crash coming home 5 laps down. More cars that didn't make it to the checkered flag then. We're looking at Chris Kehoe, Will Lyon, Andy Fuller, and John Martin. So that is our 24-car field, and another spectacular race here on a Monday evening live on RaceSpotTV. We'll just wait a few moments and try and get some of those podium finishers onto our TeamSpeak to talk to them, because that was an interesting race, and it really is the story of the championship, because a week where Adam Blocker was missing, a week where Brandon Traino had the opportunity to secure some good championship points. And while Hugo Olsen and Brian Carey tried to challenge Traino, unfortunately it was a little bit too little too late. They found Christian Steele to be a very, very difficult nut to crack, and Steele able to hold those guys up until the dying stages of the race. So let's take a look then at the late race incident that compromised Christian Steele's race, because we saw that he fell down the timing sheet. Let's see exactly why that happened as well. So coming in towards the bus stop chicane, curious if this is on the last lap or the second to last lap. So no, this is the spin that we saw from Steele. Oh no! Steele has to duck down onto the pit lane. Okay, so what unfortunately has now happened is, with the brand new incident limit, I think Christian Steele has found himself getting disqualified from today's race. So that incident might have pushed him over the 17 incident limit, and Steele might have had to serve a late race drive-through penalty. So let's wait then. We've got the Power Slide duo standing by, and we're still waiting for Brandon Traino, but let's do it the reverse order then. We usually go first to third. We'll go third to first, and I'm joined by my teammate Brian Carey. And Brian, that was an interesting race for you. It was one where you might not have expected to be up there towards the front at the late stage of the race, but even after your difficulties with that pit stop, you were able to recover and get up onto this third and final step of the podium.
That downforce. Brian Carey around that outside. Carries the momentum, sweeps up into third place, and the most.
Sounds like Brian's still enjoying my commentary of his pass. So I tell you what, we'll give him a few moments to bask in the glory of a well-earned podium, and we'll bring in his teammate Hugo Olsen instead, because Hugo, it was a interesting race for you. It looked like it was a story of downforce configurations. You had a little bit more downforce than
I can't hear you, Arjuna.
So apparently this issue might be on my end. We'll try and get that rectified in just a few seconds time, but like I mentioned, it was a spectacular pass there from so many different drivers, and we'll wait and see if we can drag these guys into the booth in just a few moments time. Unfortunately, appears as though we're having some technical issues. It looks like Brandon Traino might be standing by. Traino, you got a copy?
What's going on, Arjuna?
There we go. So at least we've got one of the three able to hear me. And Brandon, I mean, congratulations, first of all. Second consecutive race win here on a Monday night. And, well, Adam Blocker wasn't around, and it was a race that you very much controlled here. I think, you know, we talk about Blocker's domination in this series for so many years. It's great to see you coming in here and really challenging him for the first time in what is quite a few seasons.
Yeah, that was a good race. Like you said, I led the majority of it and just ran my own pace. At the end, Hugo was pushing me a little bit more than I wanted to. I don't think we had as much downforce as they did. We opted for the low downforce set for the straightaway speed. But yeah, I think if Blocker was there, it probably would have been a different story. He, for sure, I think would have gotten me, because I was struggling with the front end grip on that last stint. But you know, nonetheless, the guys at i5G put a good set together, and you know, we ultimately took home the win again.
And I think, again, is the key word there, because, I mean, your teammate took the pole position. It's looking very strong for you guys, and I can confirm, by the way, that Adam Blocker is not too happy that you still managed to win this race. Let's talk about the next couple of weeks, though. Next time out, we're at Homestead and celebrating the return of the Indy Elite Series, which is a series that I know so much of the community is excited about. Is that a series that you're going to be taking part in this year, and is that something that your attention is going towards over the next week or so?
Yeah, I will be participating this year. My schedule changed up a little bit, so I'm happy to join. I'm excited to see where I stack up against the field. I haven't ran it for a while. I think I've missed 3 or 4 seasons now. But if our results in the Open Series are any indication of how we're going to perform, I think we'll be pretty good.
One final question before I let you go, Brandon. Let's talk about these tires very briefly, because a bit of a hot button topic, if we're being honest. There was a bit of concern from some teams and drivers, I feel, where they didn't think the blacks were going to last. I heard very early on in this preparations for this week from one of your teammates that the reds were the way to go. What do you think about the state of the tires right now? Do you think there's strategy in terms of which tire you can use at different tracks, or do you think there needs to be a bit of tweaking that we need to do to get it just into that optimum window?
I don't know. It was a debate between me and Steele this week on setup, and it really kind of came down to downforce. I wanted more and he wanted less because I thought the tires would last longer, but he was quicker at the beginning of the run, so I don't really know. I think we don't have enough front end loss as the tires wear. I think it's just more rear grip, which is, in my opinion, easier to overcome. So just the fact that we were able to double stint reds, and I'm sure still be way quicker than people who ran blacks this race. I don't know. It could be a problem, but maybe we need another road course to find out what we really need to do with them. But I think they're okay for now, so we'll see.
Well, the next road course is none other than Long Beach, so I think no one's going to be worried about tires there. It's all about attrition and just getting your car to the end in one piece. Before we let you go, Brandon, anyone on the team that you want to thank for another win here in the IndyCar Open Series?
Yeah, as always, the guys at I5G and Apex Racing team. Michele was our spotter this week, and Steele put together a pretty damn good set, so I'm happy to be a part of that team.
Well, congrats, Brandon, and looking forward to seeing you back in Indy Elite competition as well.
Thanks.
So that was the two-time Indy 500 champion, Brandon Traino, and now let's see if we can bring in some of my Powerslide Motorsports teammates. Let's start with the second-place finisher, Hugo Olsen. And Hugo, do you got a copy on me?
Yeah, now I do.
Well, perfect. Hugo, interesting race there, and I think slightly frustrating, I'm sure, for you. It was a story where the first stint was all about the downforce configuration and your struggles to maybe get past, but then once you were clear of Christian Steele, you set to work, tried to reel in Brandon Traino. A little bit too little too late in terms of, just running out of time. What do you think that race could have been if you were able to get past Steele maybe slightly earlier on? Do you think you could have challenged Traino, or was second place always looking like your likely finish?
I think I could probably have challenged Traino for the win if I gotten clear of Christian a bit earlier, but yeah, I made a few mistakes in the end, so wasn't able to close in time.
I do want to ask you about that, Hugo, because lower downforce versus higher downforce, this is one of those tracks where you have that compromise that you can make. Why did you guys decide that you wanted that, a little bit more grip through the faster sections of the track where you've got like the puhons and whatnot, but you then compromise on the straights? What led to that decision? And, if you were going to do this race again, do you feel like you would have gone in the same direction?
Yeah, so the reasoning behind this was to get a bit more stability on all tires, so you're less likely to make a mistake, and hopefully the other drivers with lower downforce would fall off so we could overtake them. But it was a bit tough because you really only had like 2 overtaking spots, and the only place we could overtake in was after the Camel Straight, because if we overtook it to the bus stop, they would just be able to get past us on the Camel Straight again.
Well, Hugo, it's been a great 2020, I think, for you. You joined Powerslide a few months ago, a whirlwind year where you were competing for the IndyCar iRacing Series championship, and it all culminated a couple of weeks ago in the Open Wheels 500-mile race where you took the win. Just reflecting on 2020, how excited were you about everything that's happened, and what are you looking forward to in 2021? Your first full year part of the Powerslide Motorsports team, and it's already looking like a partnership that's working very, very well in so many different ways.
Yeah, it's a really good partnership with Powerslide, working together for special events like the Indy 500 and also regular road series and stuff. And like in the beginning of 2020, I wasn't even like in top split in road races, so I definitely improved a lot this year, and I'm looking forward for 21.
Well, Hugo, before we let you go then, for the final time this year, because you've been up in the booth just a number of occasions through all the broadcasts we've got to do, anyone from the team that you want to thank and, celebrate this year with?
Yeah, Adam Blocker has worked a lot. We prepared a lot for the Indy 500, put in a lot of work, and it definitely paid off as we got a 1-2 finish at Indianapolis in the open wheels 500. But everyone at the team has put in a lot of work, and it definitely pays off.
Well, Hugo, glad that you were jumping into a Monday night. I know it's a Tuesday morning for you, and hopefully we'll get to see you a few more times this season. And congratulations on what a great 2020 it was, and we're looking forward to seeing what happens for you in 2021.
Thank you.
So that was the second place finisher then, Hugo Olsen, the Swede who represents Powerslide Motorsports. And let's wrap things up then with our third and final podium finisher, and the Canadian Brian Carey. And Brian, just want to check here. You got a copy on me now?
I got you, yeah.
Perfect. So let's talk about that race a little bit, because I know this is the first time in a while you've been free on a Monday to jump into a race, and it was great to see you. But it was a race where you kind of were being a bit conservative, I felt, in the first half of the race. You then fell back in the pit cycle, and then you just pushed until the end, and a fantastic pass to get past Christian Steele and onto the third and final step of the podium.
Well, thanks, Arjuna. It's good to be back on a Monday race, racing these guys, and it was a great field. But yeah, as for being conservative, I mean, that was kind of the plan. Like on those red tires, we're still trying to figure them out. I mean, it's a great addition to iRacing to be able to make that switch. But what I was finding is if you push them too hard, it got a little too racy, they'd fall off faster, and it just became harder to control. So, I mean, I had three guys sitting right in front of me. I wasn't going to go flying past all three of them. So, stayed in check with Trano. I was going to kind of do opposite strategy to whatever they did. And if it wasn't for, like, the plan was the shorter second stint, but I had a chance to go an extra lap on the reds. It just didn't quite work out the way I had hoped.
Well, Brian, let's talk a little bit about next year for you, because Powerslide, you're part of the Powerslide team, and I just wrapped up talking with our teammate Hugo, and what a year it was for him. And I think next year, I'm very excited about what the future holds for Powerslide. There's the opportunity for what is going to be the biggest iRacing Indy 500 in many, many years, with so much excitement around a new tire model. But there's also Lionheart coming to RaceSpotTV, and I know you've been part of Lionheart for so many seasons. You're so familiar running into in that series. Talk to us about your racing in 2021 and what you want to try and achieve here in the Indy cars.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I'm not normally free on Mondays, so unfortunately, early in the pandemic, I had a season where I could race, and I was able to finish second that season, which was nice. But really, kind of putting all my apples in the Lionheart and the Indy Elite Series. So that's kind of where I see it playing out there. I might give it a crack at the IndyCar iRacing Series if that happens next year, just because it's a little more friendly on the Friday. But yeah, it's just racing these ones when I can, and really kind of putting my eggs in the, like I say, use metaphors like crazy eggs, apples. I don't know what else you put into a basket, but I'll be doing that for Elite and for Lionheart.
Well, let's talk about Elite, because I mentioned it just a little bit ago. Elite returns next week. We head to Homestead, Miami, in official competition as well, and I'm very excited about that. We saw a very, very interesting race last week at the Michigan International Speedway, and while Michigan and Homestead are very, very different racetracks, it's gotten me excited about oval racing on this new package, because it's something slightly different than before. And you got to race with this same package this past weekend with Lionheart at their season finale. it produces interesting racing, and I think it produces the type of racing that we as a community have been asking for so long.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's only been one race, and I wasn't there for Michigan, so I have to reserve judgment a little bit, but the main thing I found is it was either pack racing, where everyone was just drafting up to each other and running together, or it was single file, and there was really no middle ground. And I think we might have found that middle ground a little bit. I'm optimistic for Homestead. I mean, we race California in Lionheart, Michigan, very similar, almost identical tracks. And what I found is managing your race is a lot more important. I felt the tire wear, the way you do your strategy on ovals in the previous tire model was a little linear. Like, you kind of knew at every step of your stint exactly what you'd be finding. Where this, you have a little chance there are gains to backing off and maybe not pushing the issue in the first stint, or the first part of the stint, and pushing a little bit harder. And also, too, being able to actually drive away and pass people, and not just have the next three guys draft right back past you. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to Homestead. We'll see how that goes. I'll have a better opinion then, but so far so good, and both road and oval have been pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I said it right at the start of the show. After the first two rounds, I think it's very hard for someone who sat there and watched these two opening races to not feel excited about the 10 weeks that we have remaining. Before we let you go, Brian, usual shout-outs for the team, for any sponsors. Who do you want to thank for 2020?
Well, really, just honestly, I mean, my website, which has been dormant for a while, which will be coming back soon, hopefully, therevlimit.com. But as far as helping out, just like the Power Slide guys, like yourself included, but Hugo, Adam, Andrew, Andy, Henry, Wilson, who's recently joined our team, Laura, even like Tony and Chris, who come in here too. Like, I apologize if I'm missing anyone, but we do a really good job, and we have the chance to, very systematically working on the setups and everything. So again, shout out to Derek and John, who we actually have some engineering power behind us to look at out there, because my expertise is not necessarily engineering. I'm just a race fan, and I know about IndyCars by watching it, but when you start getting into the detail that iRacing provides for this, it gets overwhelming. So to have that support cast is super helpful.
Well, Brian, great to speak to you here today, and hopefully we get to speak to you a couple of times in 2021 and with Lionheart as well. So good luck, and speak to you soon.
All right, thanks, Arjuna.
So that was our third and final podium position interview, and that wraps up then our post-race interviews here live on RaceSpotTV. It's been another exciting race here, and despite the fact that it was a bit less thrill of your seat stuff, edge of your seats racing, it was still very, very exciting out front. And as always, I am excited about the possibility for more IndyCar action. Just a reminder, we'll be back next week for one more round of IndyCar Open Series competition from the Homestead Miami Speedway as we celebrate the return of the Indy Elite Series. There you can see the rest of the schedule as well as it lies in front of us. The likes of Long Beach, Gateway, Mount Panorama, Iowa, Watkins Glen, Richmond, Sebring, and then of course Pocono to finish off our season. Monday Night IndyCars are becoming a fixture here on RaceSpotTV, and you can stick around for more coverage kicking off in just 40 minutes with the RSR Winter Series and our great team there. If you're not going to stick around then, you can subscribe and hit the bell as well to follow us for more sim racing action and get notified every single time we go live with a great sim racing series we get to broadcast. Well then, for the final time on this Monday evening, I say bye-bye. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. I've had TV cameras brought to me by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com, and additional car cameras provided by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. Live timing and scoring was provided by our partners at timing71.org. You can head over to Timing71 to follow along with the best in the real and the virtual world and use their excellent suite of data analysis tools. So for the final time then in 2020, we say goodbye, and we look forward to more great IndyCar racing. We'll be back in 1 week's time from Homestead. Until then, we'll see you then.